When I embarked on the journey of Radiant both in-game as well as in real life, I never would have anticipated the juggling act that I would have to perform. I've been relentlessly trying to craft a daily routine that develops my mental, physical, financial, and emotional health, all while I simultaneously climb the ranks of Valorant in order to scratch that competitive itch. However, neglecting our cardio for so long, all in the name of the bulk, has left us with a serious problem. All it takes now is one single working day in order to inhibit my ability to develop myself in any other areas. The worst part, however, is when I try to get out of this vicious cycle, I end up overtraining, and not only do I stop my progression in other areas, I absolutely destroy it. In order to reach our goals, we must overcome this problem, and that's exactly what we're going to try and do this week. Get the dog! Okay, before the video starts, two things real quick. Number one is I haven't reached 10k yet, so retract all your congrats on 10k comments. Someone has bought 7,500 bots for the channel. I don't know if the motives were good or bad, but I'm at like 5k, okay? If that, probably like 4k. I don't know, I'm confused too. The second thing is I've gone for a much more authentic approach to the video, really writing down all my thoughts throughout the week and just putting that on paper and then putting that into the video. Is it more boring? Is it too boring? Is it authentic? Is it too authentic? Just be aware of that as you watch the video, and then if you have any thoughts surrounding that specific idea, let me know. Anyways, enjoy, love you. After a couple days just editing last week's video, I'm fully recovered, I'm G'd up, I'm ready to go. For some quick context, last week we started focusing on our cardio because we were just lacking the energy on a day-to-day basis. We'd go to work, we'd fatigue, and then when we came home, tried to be productive and get things done, it was impossible because we were already exhausted. Last week though, to try and compensate, I went way too hard doing a 6-day push-pull leg split while doing sprints and cardio, and I ended up fatiguing even harder, like I overtrained so hard. This week, we're gonna do things differently by doing an upper-lower split. However, what we're gonna do is do 1 day of gym, 1 day of cardio, 1 day of gym, 1 day of cardio, and we're gonna make sure not to do cardio and gym on the same day. Today I was working from 7 AM till 3 PM, and I didn't think much of it. However, when I got to work, things have changed, and I've now got a much harder job. Normally, I'm allocated 20 minutes to take out a pallet full of random store items. Sometimes they're light, like tissues and snacks. Sometimes they're heavy, like slabs of water and milk. However, now I'm in the fruit and veg section where every single crate I take out is 10 kilos plus, and the time in which I have to take them all out is half. Despite myself finding this extremely difficult and it absolutely maxed out my cardio for the day, I've got a co-worker with a WOOO band and he was in zone 1 while running these pallets. My goal at the moment is to get my cardio so good that an entire day of work is just zone 1 or restorative, and I don't have to worry about overtraining at all. I can go home, do our zone 2 cardio, go to the gym and push myself even further. Coming home after work, my main focus was recovery, as I just wanted to offset some of the exhaustion. We haven't even played a single game of Valorant yet, and we're already going to have the same problems as last week, being too tired to perform. Instead of doing a full body physical warm-up, I decided to just focus on my hands and wrists, as I thought that would be a strategic play. And honestly, to my surprise, during our mechanical warm-up, our aim lab scores weren't horrible, and when we queued into deathmatch, we were actually performing pretty well. I felt like because I hadn't gone and done strength training and really overtrained, I was just feeling a bit of a runner's high from all the cardio I'd done, and I was feeling pretty euphoric. To me, this means that if I get a good night's sleep and recover as best as I can, and then tomorrow, instead of doing cardio, just do strength training, this could be really sustainable and just what we need to improve our cardio without taking away from everything else in life. Oh yeah, and last week I took on board the way of the artisan and I made my own footrest. This thing is a foot pedal attached to it, which I bind to push to talk, which makes it 100 times easier to comm, and I actually comm so much more. I'm gonna dash yellow. For me to literally be communicating with my team whilst dashing onto site and not having any of my gameplay impacted at all, this is definitely something that'll improve our gameplay. That runner's high that I mentioned earlier also quickly wore off, and I was just playing as if I was completely exhausted. So, unfortunate. Although we were dashing out on retakes, which was something that we practiced at the end of last week because we just weren't doing it. Also, something completely random, but recently my ping went from 20 to 40 and I can't explain why. I tried changing my network adapters to fix that, and since then my internet's been super inconsistent, and this is actually my first time getting DC'd from a game because of my internet, so that's something I fix later. Between the exhaustion and the internet problems, this game ended up being a pretty bad loss. Queuing into our second game to get bind, our mechanics were definitely starting to warm up a bit. However, it was probably the lack of brain power that just had me tunnel visioning on things that I probably shouldn't. In this case, the barrel player, I don't check my minimap once and then I end up dying to U-haul because of it. I also wasn't playing with my teammates well and using their utility to clear things like hookah, and basically just played the entire game solely relying on my mechanics to try and get me through, which of course, that's not going to get us anywhere.
Oh, 49. Nice shot.
This game we got thrashed and it ended up being our second loss for the week. I got heaps of comments about my settings being on high and how I should lower them, so I did do that. And queuing into Icebox, I ended up playing a bit more of an aggressive playstyle A main. This is my first time ever doing the zipline play and I kinda like it. Performance this game was also solely mechanical. I feel like because I haven't done any strength training yet, my body feels good, it's just that my mind feels terrible. So I wasn't making any good decisions, but the mechanics were there. This is quite a strange thing to discover, but I guess it does make sense. If we push cardio, our game sense is going to be hurt, and if we push strength training, our mechanics will probably be hurt. Maybe? I don't know. Either way, we didn't finish the day with 3 losses, we get ourselves a nice win, and we walk away happy. Since we did commit 8 hours of our day to a working shift, we don't have that much time today, and the only other thing I get done is angle hold V2 practice, which I smash out 20 minutes of and I get a decently high accuracy. Now, we came into the day with a 76% recovery score, which allowed us to go for a 15.5 strain working day. 15.5 strain is usually what we hit when we do a smaller shift, go to the gym, and do cardio. And that's precisely why going into the next day, we're looking at a recovery score of just 26%. Now, of course, according to the game plan, it's relax, recover on the cardio, and do some light strength training. Guys, I'd love to say I did, but 3 hours of zone 2 cardio and 1 hour of zone 3 cardio later, I finish off a working shift completely exhausted, and that's just the way it is. Now, thankfully, today's Valorant session will be fueled by the radiant wisdom of Master Dopai. Normally we do these live, however at the moment time zones are just not adding up at all. Instead, I just sent him a VOD, he recorded himself reviewing it and he sent it back, and this is what we have to do for now.
You see that little jiggle movement you're doing here? You got the first kill and you kind of come back and jiggle before you peek. That probably let that guy, not the killjoy, but the omen see you a little bit, and it's just not a wide enough swing. You could also probably do this with the crouch peek if you want to go for it. I just want you to be a little bit more committed to your fight. You come back and you tuck, activate dash, you could just wide swing, get your kill and dash away. Or when you come back and you swing, you could just crouch peek and then get that shot and get out.
What I took from this snippet was peeking micro. We need to be so much more intentional with the way that we swing something, and there needs to be a good why behind it. For example, jiggle peeking, getting information, popping dash, going wide, and then dashing back after taking a couple shots. I know it seems basic, but more often than not, we're just simply dry peeking angles. Today, we're going to change that by really focusing on getting information based on jiggle peeks, jump peeks, or team utility, and then fully committing to some kind of duel, a duel that we're really prepared for. In the past, we've practiced changing the distance at which we peek from in order to confuse enemy crosshair placement, and this is a prime time to put that to use. Now, queuing into our first game of the day, we get Haven, and I just wanted to quickly highlight the improvements we've seen in our awareness, specifically surrounding what my team is actually doing on the map and how it impacts the way I should play. The reason that I selected this specific entry pathing is because I knew that back plat was completely cleared and that I could capitalize on that space being empty. Now, in regards to putting our peeking micro to the test, this was the first round where I kinda showcased it. After a pretty rough execute onto site, I'm holding CT and end up getting jump peeked off the angle. I just commit to a fight, swing, crouch, dash out, and then I die, but technically, if I was in a better position, this whole thing would have worked. After getting destroyed on the pistol round, I predicted the enemies would push B again to try and capitalize on what they thought would be a weakness. I started off the round in a more passive position, anticipating the fight and preparing myself. When looking to re-aggress, I made sure that I was intentional with my peeks and popping dash and getting out if need be, and unfortunately, the downfall was actually our angle holding. Now, just because I do pop dash doesn't mean I'm going to use it unless I feel like I need to. After killing the Reyna with a burst, my bullets were accurate and I felt like I didn't have to dash. However, fighting the deadlock, I ended up committing to a spray, and if someone else was to swing, my bullets would still be inaccurate and I probably would die. That's why I dashed. Could be lurking. Now, despite being pretty exhausted as well as putting our conscious efforts towards learning this brand new peeking micro, we almost get it to overtime, bringing back a lost game, but unfortunately the Sova ends up clutching a 1 versus 3 and we do end up losing. Now queuing into our next game, we do end up getting put into Ascent. Our ability to click on the head was perfectly fine, however it was only really being supported by the conscious efforts that I was putting in towards our brand new peaking micro. The rest of our Valorant knowledge was absolutely nowhere to be found, as it was just completely shrouded by brain fog and exhaustion, inhibiting my ability to really access any of the knowledge in my subconscious. Nevertheless, as a team, we pulled through and had a really good attack half, and then swapping over to defense, I played an aggressive fast rotate position, and I did keep trying to put as much work into my peaking micro as possible. Now besides this pretty cool timing on a market push I was able to get, I don't have too much else to show for, not even the end of the game, which I just forgot to record. For our final game of the day, we end up getting put onto Icebox, and we had a pretty funny team.
I'm gonna look.
Oh, coming here.
They cut noise. Oh shit.
Bro, what? How? Now, despite already maxing out on cardio at work, realistically I should be recovering. However, I just couldn't help but link my lack of cardio to my lack of progression in all areas of life. It bothered me to my core, so I just went out and got on the bike and did 45 minutes of zone 2 cardio just to try and fast track my progression towards being able to progress. After that, I used what little energy I had left to try and get some more immortal scores. I got kinda close, plateaued, and then called it for the night and started to wind down. One thing I will take accountability for is that my wind downs have been pretty bad. At most, they're about half an hour, 15 of which include my hot shower, and then all I'm really left with is 15 minutes of reading. In an ideal world, this should be like 1 hour of straight stretching and meditation in a dark room before bed. Now for Thursday's stats, we did only get 13.9 strain, and that's just because we didn't work nearly as much as we did the day before. However, based on the fact that we haven't been able to rest at all, our resting heart rate is still through the roof, our recovery is terrible, and we got a 32% score going into Friday. Now one thing I want to talk about is obviously our journey here on the channel. There are 4 very distinct pillars that we're trying to build in order to develop our IRL self. As you guys can see, we're clearly working on the physical health pillar. Once we do get on top of our recovery and keep pushing our meditation, there's our mental health pillar, and then through developing our self-awareness as well as working with other people's emotions and learning all about that, we're able to develop our emotional health. Now the 4th pillar is our financial health, and I feel like that's actually our weakest at the moment. One of the main reasons for that is as I earn more money from the channel, I'm slowly scaling back my hours. That's all fine, but at the moment all the money that we earn from Ko-Fi and YouTube is going into a Zasko fund, which we allow Ko-Fi supporters to do votes on what it's spent on, and that's where the problem arises. With the way things are now, of course it's fun and we get to have a bit of a laugh as we vote and buy random things. However, I feel like if I really want to mature and become the best version of myself, financially especially, I do need to take control and treat the money as if it was my own and give it the same love and respect. I need to learn how to invest my money in ways that will see growth. I need to learn how to make difficult decisions for myself, and then overall I think I lack responsibility with money, and that's something I also want to develop. But now I'll put a pause on the voting, but what I will do is keep up the communication in regards to our financial decisions so you guys can hopefully see development throughout that. To wrap up our finance talk, if you guys do want to support the channel, the Ko-Fi is the best way, and I do appreciate it endlessly. I don't have too much incentive to join, I'm not gonna lie, but we do have a really cool community of Ko-Fi supporters at the moment. One day there'll be extra content, but I'm just not ready yet. Now work has decided that I'm gonna start an hour earlier, so that's just what I gotta do, and in order to make that easier, I use my sad lamp to set my circadian rhythm. This thing also has a 10% boost to our overall recovery, which is pretty sick. Now despite only working a 3-hour shift today, without a chance to rest, each day is just simply getting worse and worse. Coming home from work, I was feeling irritable, tired, demotivated, and really miserable. I felt super lost, to be honest, and I didn't really know what to do. I ended up just spending a whole bunch of time journaling and not really sure if I should play Valorant or not because I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to perform at all. Problem is though, tomorrow I'm doing another 8-hour shift of just heavy lifting, and I know that everything is just going to feel so much worse than I already feel now. Luckily, Dopai has come through with the second half of his VOD review, and we've just got no time to waste, honestly.
As soon as the Killjoy is spotted, because that's normally their lurker, I'm probably going to be pushing top mid. So if I'm bottom mid here, I see them pushing main, I'm just going to push out mid, boom, peek top mid, see nothing. And at this point, I can kind of just hold here. If they do start committing, I will probably jump up and either go for the flank or go for the rotate, depending on which I think is better.
Beyond the Ascent specific positioning here, Dopai also does expand onto just being more aware of the enemy's plays and what they're actually trying to accomplish.
I also noticed that we don't have a mid smoke anywhere. You might have to be asking for this, even though it might be implied. Just make sure you comment.
He also did re-emphasize the fact that the team's util is our util, and I've got to be comming for that and using it like it's my own. I'll put the rest of the notes on screen, however, I feel like it'll be difficult for me to try and apply them all this week as I can barely even function. After warming up and playing some deathmatch, I queue into our first game and we do get Abyss. Unfortunately though, 10 rounds into the game and we were looking at a 1-9 scoreline. It felt like I genuinely couldn't aim or think. Like, genuinely terrible. You know it's a really bad game when I not only AWP crutch the entire attack half, but I also forget to record the end as well, so we lost, guys, we lost. I'm gonna push down mid.
I'll dog grass.
Okay, I'll
Very
wall
nice.
the mid for you.
How does that work?
You kill 5 and I'll just wall you off.
Queuing into our next game, we get Haven. We luckily start off on the defense side, and I end up just abusing the B push the entire time. In the final round of our attack side, I'm put in a 1 versus 2 scenario where I make use of the caterpillar smokes in order to secure a 8-4 half. I did it, I did it.
Finally did something. Woo-woo!
Thanks to the support of my teammates, I was able to get another 1 versus 3 clutch going.
Oh shit! My duelists are back.
All jokes aside, I was actually hitting some pretty nice shots. I didn't feel good mentally, so I was kind of G'd up by the fact that, like, if this is how I'm playing now, how good am I going to play when I'm finally not fatigued?
Going out, just run away.
Are you-
Don't peek, don't peek, don't peek. He's in ult. Just don't peek. He could stick. He could stick.
I'm speechless.
Holy.
I'm actually speechless. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm speechless, bro.
I didn't know you were one shot.
A loss, but I'm glad that I am out of that game. Cypher, bro, last game, how was that round where the Sova ulted, team killed me, and the Clove clutched?
Oh, bro, I was the clove on that thing.
Bro, how did you get 1 HP? I didn't see you being 1 HP, bro. That's why I ulted through you.
Oh, it was you? Oh, we're f***ed, man. We're f***ed. If it wasn't for the enemy team locking 5 duelists, I promise you, I would have lost. What you're watching right now is the worst ace I have ever gotten in my life. The sprays are disgusting. I could not focus on the head and my mechanics were gone. But one thing that you'll notice pretty much throughout my entire week is that even at my absolute lowest lows of mentals, I'm actually pretty good at holding together my mental regardless of the wins or losses. However, my IRL stoicism probably isn't up to speed with my Valorant. Because I felt like I wasn't making progression across the board, I once again looked at my cardio as the villain, wanted to brute force it, and maybe out of ego wanted to prove to myself that I do have the mental strength, I just simply lack the cardio. And the only reason I'm emphasizing this is because I did 90 minutes of cardio on the bike. After that, I followed it up with 90 minutes of aim training, smashing out the Voltaics Fundamentals Diamond routine, as well as getting my control strafes to Immortal finally. With the week that I had up until now, followed by the 90 minutes of cycling and aim training, my mental at this point was fragile to say the least. With that said, what better time for me to realize that there were 7,500 botted subscribers on my YouTube channel, and I've been celebrating it as a victory this whole time. At this point, I'm up 42 minutes past the bedtime we set for ourselves. I've got work tomorrow and it's another 8-hour shift of heavy lifting, hence why I was trying my hardest to journal away any of the negative thoughts I was having. But with how poorly I've been treating my body, it's only to be expected to not be able to control the mind. I ended up losing sight of my true purpose, my deep why. Why am I doing this? And then that's exactly what I was questioning myself. Why am I doing this? What's the point? I'm not seeing any progression, my YouTube channel isn't as big as I thought it was, my Valorant is still the same rank as when I started, and my weight is no different to when I started either. What am I doing, blah blah. I was going nuts, I spiraled so hard. Ending Friday, we ended up with 12 strain. Once again, we don't recover at all the following day, so we're still on 32 recovery going into Saturday. And to make things even better, we've now got an additional hour of sleep debt that is only going to make things worse. Now, regardless of my absolutely terrible recovery, I gave work my absolute all, impressed the heck out of them, and they actually let me go home 2 hours and 15 minutes early. Alright, I'm gonna do like half an hour of some dedicated in-game aim training where I just focus on my aiming discipline, and then I'm just gonna redo my entire room. I want cool things in this view. And I also think I should be on more of an angle. I'm going to figure all this out, but let's do some aim training. Aiming discipline. This is a new concept that I learned from Minigod. My understanding is that it's your ability to only ever micro adjust and click when you know exactly where the target is on your screen and how they're moving, what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. The idea is that your speed should not change the fact that your technique is perfect. The theory that I've been developing is as follows. When there's nothing, I have a steady gaze on my crosshair. When the target appears, I acquire it with my peripheral vision. I full flick as close to the target as possible, but never ever past it. I make sure not to micro adjust until I am visually gazing at the head of the enemy. From there, I micro adjust and make my first shot. However, this is where the importance of tension management comes in, and if you have tension in your hand, this is extremely difficult. Not only that, but say you miss the first shot and you need to readjust. If you've got tension in your wrists, hands, arms, you're not going to be able to do that. Correct or not, that's my understanding of aim theory, and the second part of aiming discipline is to be able to take your technique, whatever it is, and apply it no matter what the speed of the target is. That's why here I'm varying between easy, medium, and difficult bots in order to try and practice keeping a consistent technique across all of them. Most of the time when people play hard bots, they just flick and like try and get it, you know, as fast as possible, but it doesn't work, and that's not really how you play in game. Anyways, hopping into deathmatch, once again, I'm just focusing on my technique. However, I was really pushing speed. And honestly, speed comes natural when I freak out in a deathmatch. However, my default reaction is now the proper technique. That's why I'm hitting some really fast flicks here, because I do freak out, but my instant reaction, just like touching a hot pan, my instant reaction is to just a flick with the proper aiming discipline now. Now, my aim when I play comp is never this good, so I think that when there's other elements involved, my aiming discipline isn't as sharp. But if we can work on that, we could copy and paste the flicks here into comp and be the next mechanical best player in the world. Now, queuing into our first comp of the day, of course, aiming discipline is fresh on my mind. One thing that makes this all even better is when I train my eyes before I play. I'm training my peripheral vision and my focus point. After doing my mental warm-up, I'm like primed for some nice flicks. Considering yesterday we finally got down to 12 strain and this is how we're performing, it goes to show what a tiny bit of rest could actually do. Now, as much as something like this excites me for the future of when I'm finally rested and recovered and can play some Valorant without being completely fried, it only lasts so long, as realistically we haven't done anything to help or aid our recovery, and we're still just pushing. And once it started going down, it really went down, and yeah, there was nothing we could do about it. Sova, bro, do you mind lobbing a dart? For our second game of the day, we get sent, of course, and this is where I actually decided to put to use some of the teachings that Dopai gave us. Many of our attack rounds were spent thinking about how to use the team's utility to get some sort of play accomplished, and then many of the defense rounds were spent trying to control mid in as many ways as possible. Problem is, I felt like the last of my mechanical energy was burnt out last game and I really couldn't hit any shots. Something else I needed to work on was not hesitating so much when I rotated and trying to make sure that I get a good timing before they get out onto site, swing before the smoke is fully popped, and just make sure that, you know, they're not all fully set up. I'm sure you guys know by now, when there's a spiral, the spiral just, it's never not dramatic, it continues, it fully rides out, and this is no exception. Queuing into our next game, we get Sunset, and the results of the game were decided round 4.
Yo, Timmy, can we have like... My feeling is horrible. We said no contact, you've pushed up immediately, got caught by the knife.
You wanna fucking choke, I'll show your fucking mouth.
Blank. And there goes my Ascendant 3, and there goes my mental health. I finally remembered that I was meant to clean my room and reorganize it, change everything around, and I probably should have done this before absolutely draining myself even further, weakening my willpower and getting myself into that negative headspace. The only reason I say that is because now I'm definitely susceptible to making really stupid decisions. I needed a new Ethernet cable and I simply could not wait until the next day when I had the whole day off, and I drove down 40 minutes to go to Bunnings and get a new one. One side effect of my terrible mental health was looking at every single car valued at $1 more than my 2000 2003 Mitsubishi Lancer and wondering why I couldn't have that and what I'm doing wrong and blah blah blah. Funnily enough, guys, I actually answer my own question here. But nah, I could definitely feel the impacts of overtraining on my hormones. Normally I'm embracing the grind and I'm just so happy to put in the effort, and the effort is what actually feels good. The journey is what feels good. But after 5 days of overtraining, suddenly I'm some kind of victim. Yeah, this is unacceptable, and what is also unacceptable is the fact that I just got distracted halfway through cleaning my room and sit down and binge watch YouTube for 40 minutes. I found a Chrome extension that lets me track my YouTube time watched, and now I'm getting on top of this like an absolute hawk. Besides neglecting my much needed wind down period for some YouTube binge, the room that we designed actually came out really nice. One of the next projects that I do want to get on top of is my wardrobe and just coming up with a bit of a system for that. It's really messy at the moment and I wouldn't mind some better storage. Our absolutely beautiful desk is somehow still standing, and the new positioning of the desk allows for a bit of a better background, and I wanted to put the whiteboard up there so you guys can see what I'm writing on it, but that's something for tomorrow. Now for Saturday's stats, we ended the day with 13.4 strain, but something that's important to note is that I got an extra hour of sleep because I didn't have work the next day. This alone allowed me to get a 55% recovery score compared to the usual 32%. The biggest takeaway here is that all I have to do is add an hour of sleep to my day and suddenly I've got an extra 15% recovery. And waking up on this day, I felt better than I've felt waking up all week. So much so that I get straight into business and get stuck into hanging up the whiteboard. Whatever we're working on or whatever we think is important is on the board. There's no hiding from it. Next up, we continued the way of the artisan. I explained that I need some better storage solutions, and this is exactly what I'm getting on top of. The 2 pieces of wood that I'm using here totaled to about 20 bucks Australian dollars, so technically speaking, excluding the tools, this is quite cost effective. Including the tools, it is absolutely terrible, but this is about learning a craft and mastering something that will benefit all areas of our life. Now, as I was doing this, it definitely gave me a bit of time to clear my mind, and I knew exactly what I needed to do next. This is the coldest water that my shower is capable of spitting out. If we want better recovery, what better way than cold showers and ice baths? At the same time, if we want to fix our sleep problems at the moment, we need to have the willpower to be able to say no to something like a YouTube binge and say yes to something like an hour of stretching before bed. By enduring the pain and suffering that comes of a cold shower and intentionally putting myself through that, I develop our willpower like a muscle that we're training. It will become dramatically easier to say no to the things that I know I shouldn't be doing, and honestly, that is probably the best thing for us to work on right now. And with that marks the first day of our cold shower streak. Going into our final Valorant session of the week, I was definitely keen to see how we go. Like, we're not doing any physical activity and we've got a pretty good recovery under our belt. It's still by no means a full recovery and we're definitely capped at like 50% effort, but I'm definitely interested. After warming up, I get stuck into our deathmatch before we play, and the shots we were hitting were definitely nice and I felt really comfortable. Queuing into our first competitive game of the day, and the difference was genuinely day and night. Yes, my mechanics were definitely better than normal, however, I feel like my understanding of the game just suddenly came back. My positioning was better, my awareness of the enemy team was better, and my ability to do and focus on many different things at the same time was way more fluid. Not only that, but more importantly, I was actually finally having some fun whilst playing again. Get the dog, get the dog!
Fine.
I went for it. If this is Valorant on 50% recovery, we need to hit 100. Queuing into Lotus, I had a smile on my face. I was feeling more than ever like my old self, and I was so happy about it. As the game continued, my confidence was just getting higher and higher. The fights that I was taking and the angles that I was holding, I just sort of really believed in myself more than I ever have this week. And I think it all boils down to one key concept, which is that I could just process so much more information at once. Earlier on in the week, I explained how, yes, I could consciously focus on an idea and sort of see improvement in that, but that all the background stuff just wasn't there to support it. Now, I can focus on something, but I've still got all the background information and my normal Valorant knowledge to support it in a way that's going to actually get us to rank up, you know? We're not necessarily playing faster at all than when we're normally fatigued. A part of having that background knowledge is having access to the knowledge that, okay, we should play a little bit slower in certain scenarios, or, you know, we don't need to push, we've got an advantage, that sort of thing. That's the kind of information I'm talking about when I say background. Now, for some reason, again, I did forget to record the end of the game. But yeah, despite the efforts that we put in, I believe it was a match MVP loss. Our final game for the week was a beautiful one, 100%. I really understood when I should just hold. This is one of our biggest strengths, and when we weren't playing into it, it was just an example of how scattered we really were. Something else that I've picked up on is that my ability to use Jet's utility is so much better in these games. Once again, just processing multiple things at once, but my ability to quickly smoke off a threat when I felt it, or my consistency when it came to activating dash at the right times, it was just a noticeable difference. Now, despite the absolutely peak performance for the week, unfortunately, we do end up with another match MVP loss, but honestly, I'm so happy with the way that we played that it's really going to push me to work on my recovery 100%. Now, one of the most pivotal things that I did after hopping off of Valorant was do 45 minutes of stretching before going to bed. Right as 7 o'clock hit, I got stuck into it. It allowed me 15 minutes to make my bed afterwards, write down some notes and stuff like that, but I was completely primed and ready for a really good night's sleep. By only hitting 7.8 strain, taking a cold shower, and having an extremely optimal sleep, I woke up with an 82% recovery score. The next day, I finally smashed out the personal training session, which would be really difficult to show. There's copyrighted music in the background, and it would be like 2 hours worth of explainer footage. But what I'll do is go over that in the next video when we do our workout. Regardless though, despite being in the gym for 2 hours and pushing 11.6 strain, with another cold shower, another optimal sleep, another 45 minutes of stretching, I reached 92% recovery. Anyways, let's smash out the benchmarks. Now that we've learned the importance of recovery, I've added it into the spreadsheet so that we're once again held accountable, but we can also see some progression in our resting heart rate variability, and just overall sleep scores and stuff like that. These numbers here are daily averages for the entire week. So this week we averaged 23,487 steps. A number like that could be used to indicate why our daily average of resting heart rate was 86 instead of 82. Now, on our journey to try and increase our cardio, we overtrained ridiculously hard, subsequently plummeting our win rate to 26.66%. This, of course, is why we're Ascendant 2. Now, because we came into the week with the idea that we're not going to do cardio and gym on the same days, however, we simultaneously ended up maxing out on cardio every single day, we just didn't end up going to the gym a single time. The result of that? Only our legs grew, and I guess it makes sense because we were doing like 90 minutes of cycling in a day. I didn't do any meditation sessions, which is probably not ideal. However, the cycling definitely felt like meditation because I was just sitting there in silence. Our subscribers, to be honest, I don't really know what to think. Like, I don't actually even know how many we've got, and I definitely won't be celebrating any of the gains that we've made in the last couple weeks. And then finally, the Zasko2 fund is up to $722, so I haven't made any purchases with that yet, and when I do start to work on my financial skills, that's something that you guys will be fully up to date with. Alright, I'm kind of rushing the video a bit now, so I'm gonna say my goodbyes. I hope I didn't miss anything, but Day 3 of the cold shower streak continues, and it's 6:48. So if I get this video done and rendered right now, I can be on time for that 7 PM wind down and keep my streak going. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next week.